So Valentine's Day came and went, and I'm still super single. I mean, I don't get it. I'm not hideous. I'm not that weird. I'm disease free. I just can't seem to find the right dude.
So I was looking at TikTok last night and I came across a girl who was ranting about a very bad first date. And it got me kind of wondering,
Okay.
what would be considered a bad date? What would be considered a good date? What are some red flags? I mean, one of the things that this girl was talking about was the choice of restaurant that he picked. And it wasn't a low end restaurant. It was better than Red Lobster, let's say. It was definitely better than McDonald's. Maybe we should take a look for a little bit of context.
Okay, let's do that. Oh, there's plenty of stories. Oh my goodness. Who hasn't had one disastrous date at least in their life? I
At
think
least
some
one.
people more than they care to admit. Oh yeah.
I'm coming off of one of the weirdest, worstest first dates I've ever been in my life. Toronto men, you have got to do better. So this guy messages me online, right? Me I get right into the meat of the matter, but coming out with some time. This guy messages me online and he goes, "Oh, can I take you out for dinner and drinks?" I said, "Okay." You know what I mean? We finally said, "Okay." So anyways, a couple days before the date, him call me and I'm like, okay, he's like, like, were we good? Where am I picking you up? What time? I'm like, you're not picking me up, sir. You could have never picked me up. If I don't know you from nowhere, may we meet you there, may we see you there. You understand? So I said, where do you have plans? Him say, you don't have to worry about the plans. All you have to do is show up, get dressed, we're going for dinner and drinks. I said, okay, I'm on with a plan. You understand? We're not fuss. So anyway, closer to the date, him come back again and him say, oh, we're going to. I said, so where are we going? Him say, we're going to Maxis. Me say, Max who? Maxis. Me say, a liar tell. There's no way. Basically, for the Jamaicans, the man basically bring me go Island Grill. Me not telling a lie. Me say Maxis not even in the marriage. Maxis at the bottom of the barrel compared to a date. You understand what I'm saying? Maxis are where we used to go when we in a high school. For go grab little pasta and little white chocolate brownie. And don't you mistake that I did go and I did get that white chocolate brownie tonight. Me not telling no lie. So anyways, he said, no, it's the one in Richmond Hill. It's not ghetto. It's different. It's upscale. Da, da, da. I'm like, okay. You know what, Tash? Me not go fuss. You know what I mean? It's a date. Go on a date. Try to enjoy yourself. You don't know what it's going to turn out to be. So anyway, we go on a date. We reach at the date. The time come, we reach. You understand? The place ram like go. The parking lot ram it fully full. When me look on the parking lot, me say, no, Sam, call him. Me say, sir, where are you? Oh, I'm 5 minutes old. Me so rich. Me say, yes, 5 minutes. What? Me say, you should have there wait for me with look flowers, something. You understand? He said, no, I'm coming. Just wait. Me say, do you have reservation? No. The man said he don't have no reservation. When we looking at place to place, ram, parents, family, picnic, high school, picnic, college, everybody in the place. You know, so I turn off. Right there, so I want it a red flag because first of all, upon him picture him have braids, like locks were braided down. Me never like the ear and but again, like I said, and this is why you know to lower your standard. Keep your standard. So anyways, we get to the place now. You know what I put with? The bar. The bar for sit down when we finally reach in. When we reach in now, he might say, no, they just putting us here temporarily soon get a table. When we finally got a table, when we finally, you know, so the dolly not dolly down, the dolly barely dolly because you see, Max is me not OD, but me will look a little bit cute. You know, me have a little belly out and stuff. So anyway, we sit down. You understand? The man not stop talk about himself. The man not talk about him asset. He might talk about how much condom have up the road and him the bike for rent, but him like it under the penthouse. And hopefully me can get to see it tonight. Me say, you're crazy, sir. Me say, I'm ready, so I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to go. Him order back for the table. We get a little white chocolate brownie. Me get a pasta, a little steak and so. And me said, sir, I'm ready. You understand him? So are we gonna get a second date? Me said,
Okay, I see what you're saying. So hold on, I got something to say about this one because um as a first date, I think it's more than acceptable. I don't think somebody should have to do a huge commitment into a first date because yeah, you're trying to impress somebody potentially, but at the same time, could you imagine being a male and then you're what taking all these girls out on dates and every time you're taking them to these fancy restaurants with the like how fast the Tinder dates go and everything. The turnover rate is so high. If I was a man personally, I wouldn't commit to anything more than a coffee date to begin with to see if the
I
chemistry is
agree.
even there.
I agree. Like, unless you have a lot of good quality conversations before going out on a date, why would you want to waste all that time, all that money? Because even from a woman's perspective, like, there's a lot that goes into getting ready for a date anyways. Even a coffee date for a woman, you got to do your nails, you got to do your hair, you got to do your makeup, you got to have like a cute outfit, you know, like there's a lot that goes into getting ready for a date. And then, I mean, let's face it, just because you go on a date with a woman doesn't mean that automatically a man should pay anyways. But that's a whole other thing, you know. Like,
I
I
got
think,
some thoughts on that, but
well, I mean,
yeah, go
dating
on.
is expensive. Dating is expensive. Let's just get that out there. It also begs the question, you know, a lot of women will say, well, I want a man that has money. Don't try to date me if you don't have money. Don't try to date me if you're broke. But where do we fall in with that? I mean, dating costs money. So if you don't have money to date, should you not date? Like, how do you, so what, you don't deserve
Well, this
companions?
is the thing. Personally, this is just my perspective on it, is you don't necessarily have to have money to date, or you can, if you're on a budget, or if you're on a, if you don't have much money, you could always propose a, you know, a picnic, or you can go to a park. Like, there's no need to actually on a first date to go make that kind of commitment, you know, or to have to expense it. And if the person you're taking on a date is actually like pushing for something like that, you can be honest and say, hey, listen, you know, until we get to know each other better, I like to first see if, you know, I want something really low commitment. So, and I would even put it on the person saying, you know, in case you don't feel comfortable, I'd want you to be able to leave, and we can casually part ways. And I don't want you to feel you need to commit to a full dinner with me, or full this, or whatever it is, right? You could play it off as something like that. And
Yeah.
if you find that the date is rolling along nicely, and then you want to talk about the finances, and you can lay your cards on the table at that point, if you feel like there's going to be a next date,
On a
that's the
first
time to
date,
do it. Because I don't think, maybe on the second date, or to have that conversation at some point. But I mean, first of all, don't lead the person on. If it's clear that, for example, there's hints being dropped that money is of a concern to one or the other parties, I just don't feel like it's necessary. But back to another point you were saying, as far as, you know, guys paying for you know, the date. I'm on the philosophy. I'm a little bit old school, first of all, but the one philosophy I go by on is, I think whoever invites the other person out should be the one to pay. But on the flip side, I'm going to tell you one thing. I do expect the guy to pay. And I'll tell you, for me, it's not in the way that, oh, I want him to pay. For me, it's almost like I don't want to say a test, but I want to get a barometer of the guy's values. Like, for example, I'll offer to pay, and if he lets me to pay, and I will pay, you know, if he doesn't, but yeah, I want to offer to pay, and I will offer to pay. If he takes me up on that offer, this might be controversial, but there's not going to be a second date. Because I feel like if he invited me out, because I'm going to guarantee you, I wouldn't have been the one to ask him out. And if I were, then this would be a moot point anyway. Because as I said, I think it's whoever invites him out. So if he invited me out, I would feel like, if you can't put your best foot forward on the first date to be like, okay, you know what, I do like you, I'm going to pay for this meal. Then I think that sets it up for the rest of the relationship. So you're going to expect me to pay everything, or it's that easy for you to have me pay for things. So it's not even a matter of man, woman. For me, it's a matter of how much effort and how much sacrifice are you willing to even put in that first little effort.
So
you know, and if you can't even do that.
My question is then, okay, so what if you did the offer? So like, oh no, it's okay, I'll get it. Really not wanting to get it, but just like, oh, I'll get it. And the person says, no.
Yeah.
How about if we split? Because the person doesn't read your social cues and doesn't understand your test, and is kind of thinking, okay, she
Right.
wants to pay, I don't want her to pay for the whole thing. How about if we split and that's somewhere in the middle? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that would depend on how the date is going and how I feel about the person. It's still I mean, I still would rather him just pay the first date. It would show me like a character of him, you know, just to say that, hey, I got this, and I want to, again, like, impress me a little bit, you know. And that's one way I think a man can do it, you know. Just the same way, like, I wouldn't expect him to do certain things. Like I said, I'm a little bit old-fashioned in that way, but it's not like a hard and fast rule where I want you to pay every time. I just feel like if you intend to see me again and are interested to see me again, at least make that small little gesture, you know. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm not one of those people that will be like, oh, well, I'm going to order the lobster, the most expensive thing on the menu. I will actually order something probably the cheapest on the menu, because again, I don't want to come across like, hey, I'm taking advantage,
Yeah,
because I think that's
I'm
gonna
a steak and lobster girl. Yeah, no, and you know what? Generally, the
Well,
rule that
not even
I
that.
like
I think a lot of women are using it. They're using serial dating as like a free meal ticket, and I understand where guys are coming from. They're fed up, and that's also why some of them don't want to pay, right?
Yeah, and the kind of rule that I go to is kind of see what they order first. I usually let them order first so that that way I can see, okay, where are they at? And generally we'll go like either somewhere in the same area or a little bit below, depending on what I like, right? Just to kind of not, again, be a little bit considerate and not be that, oh, well, I need to get the steak and the lobster and the moe and, you know, like that kind of stuff.
Well, I think another rule to follow, or gauge, or sort of like something to go by, would be, what would you normally get? Would you normally get that? Then get it. If now you're gonna get the more expensive thing that you would normally get if you were out on your own, then don't get it. You know, like that's not
Yeah, but
right.
also,
At the same thing, don't be like, well, I'm only gonna get a salad because I don't want him to think I'm this. Meanwhile, that's not really what you want either. So I think you should have
yeah,
that
but
nice middle
okay,
ground,
so
and
then
it's just like a nice balance.
by your thing then, so if you would normally get the most expensive thing on the menu, let's just say that you really were into surf and turf and you really wanted that seasonal lobster, right? And normally when you would go out, and even if like paying for yourself, normally you would get like a 3-course meal and you would order a bottle of wine. If you would do all that normally, but now you're on somebody's dime, would you have the consideration and say, you know what, somebody else is paying for this, I'm not going to go too all out because I'm conscious of their stuff? Or you're going to be like, well, you know what, I normally get that for myself anyway, so I'm just going to do me?
Well, I think you should do you in a way, but I think in that case you should be prepared to pay also. If that is your standard,
And then,
I wouldn't make
then by
assumption
your
that someone
and then
else's
by your
standard is that too,
definition,
right?
then you walk away afterwards because like, dude, you weren't supposed to let me pay.
Well, well, that's it, because then that actually, well, by my definition, then actually that relationship would most probably not proceed to the next stage, because your standards are higher than his standards, and clearly he can't afford. Your lifestyles are different, so that could be a clash already, and you could actually save yourself both the trouble of not pursuing that relationship. Sometimes
Or
those first dates are going to be what set the stage.
Or it could be honestly that maybe that dude's kind of like, oh God, like she's like taking, maybe the person doesn't know you really. Let's just say they might think that you are one of those chicks that are taking advantage of the situation and the whole like meal hopping thing. So like I don't know if that's necessary. Like
That
obviously, girl, you do you, but I don't know if this is.
Yeah, but I guess my point is let's say you are that kind of girl where you're into the expensive and the finer things in life. I don't think necessarily you should have to come down to a different level or pretend to be something you're not. Do you know what I mean? However, again, everything is within reason. Now, if you already know ahead of time that this guy you're seeing, he and you may or may not know this, but if you know that he's not financially on the same plane as you, then you might have to lower your expectations if you're okay with that, right? But most women in general tend to gravitate towards men who make more than them, right?
Right, so, but then the next thing too is, okay, so a guy would be willing to like you so much that they'd be willing to pay for this super expensive meal, but they don't have crap to their name, right? So again, that may not be, I mean, if it works, it works, but that might not be the best gauge. I think there's a lot more other issues that or flags that could kind of come up and be like, okay, green flag, this guy has this moral and that moral, and we have like the same kind of wavelength on whatever. Or a red flag, I noticed that he does this and he chews with his mouth open and he spits when he talks, and he seems to have a foot fetish, all those kinds of like little red flags that might come up.
Yeah, right, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a hard and fast rule. What I think it is a way to potentially go about it. Like I said, I'm not one to order the most expensive thing on the menu anyway, just because I don't eat steak, I don't eat ribs, I don't eat a lot of things that tend to be more expensive on the menu anyway. So by default, I'm not going to order the most expensive thing. for me, it kind of works. What I do works for me. Thank God I'm not on the dating scene. I have no desire to be on the dating scene, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I to be honest, I am grateful that I am done with that also. I mean, I have some friends that are still on the dating scene. It's I hear their horror stories and it sounds so wonderful. Like, okay, so there was this girl who was one of my friends, and she was telling me about how she met up with this guy and they ended up going back to his place, right? And she walks in,
Right.
and the place is just a disaster. Like, it's got piles of dirty dishes all over the sink. It's got like shoes and clothes thrown all over the place. But you know,
Yeah.
the conversation wasn't bad, so she was obliging a little bit, you know, like, okay, let me just talk to him, see where this goes. Sits down on the couch. The guy goes, oh, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom, come right back. She's like, okay, I'm waiting. She's looking around. She's like, all right, everything looks okay. I'm okay. Everything's okay. And then the guy comes out in a hot pink thong and starts like doing some little dancing and little posing. And, you know, needless to say, she didn't go out with him again after that.
Oh wow. Oh, I have one date I remember I went on years ago, and the date was okay. I mean, the conversation was okay. He ended up walking me to my car outside the restaurant, and then for some reason he saw the engine light on my car, and then he proceeded to mansplain to me how the air pressure on my tires are low. I need to get it looked at, and I'm telling him, well, no, actually, I have these aftermarket tires on my car, winter tires that don't have sensors on them, so the car doesn't recognize the tires, and hence it's coming up as a pressure warning. And then he felt like I have no idea what I'm talking about. He proceeded to again reiterate, oh, I could look at that for you. And I'm telling him, like, no, I'm telling you, the mechanic said this engine light will be on until I put the summer tires with the sensors back on the car. And he just wouldn't drop it. Like, it almost became heated to the point where I was like trying to respectfully tell him, like, okay, you could shut your face now, because clearly you're not hearing anything. Yeah. So anyway, and he became angry and angrier. And the more I like, okay, to the point I'm like, okay, I couldn't wait to get out of there. I'm like, no way am I going to see this guy again. Like, just because you think you know it and no one else can possibly have another, explanation.
Do you know what?
You just know everything.
I have a car story. So there was a guy that I was talking to. I had found him on one of those dating apps, and we were having some conversations, and he said that he was some sort of executive for one of the big 3 automakers, right? Okay, whatever. Okay. So we're talking, and I needed to get myself some winter tires. And we started discussing tire sizes. And I know what the tire sizes mean. So if you have, like, say, a 205, 65, 17 or something, I know that the 205 is the width, the 65 is the wall, and the 17 would be the rim size, right? I know all of that, right? I'm hip to it.
Well, but you're a woman, you can't possibly know that.
I can't possibly know that, especially when actually no, the 235 is the circumference around the entire tire, not the width of the tire. It's the circumference around the entire tire. And he insisted that that's what it's actually measuring, and he knows because he's in the business. I was like, like,
you had
some
to
people, you just have to know when to just be like, okay, buddy, whatever. And that didn't work out either. I'm sorry, if you don't know the basics of a tire, I'm sorry, we can't continue. We can't continue this. I'm sorry.
I remember there was this one story. This was so many years ago, but I'll never forget it, because I had a close friend of mine, and she was an adventurous type, right? And she was on the promiscuous side as well, right? So so she did her fair share of sort of one night stands. I'll never forget the morning that she called me after one of her, I guess it wasn't a date so called. It was I met him at the club and took him home for the night situation. She woke up and there was urine in her bed. This man had wet her bed.
How drunk was he?
I was speechless. I'm sure he was pretty intoxicated too, or unless he has issues there. But yeah,
You know what? To be
I
honest,
was like, okay,
I know this is a touch off topic, but you know what happens, and it's happened to somebody that I know, not me. Sometimes you're just feeling so
yeah,
comfortable in bed, and you know when you start to have like those dreams that you have to get up, and then your body thinks that you actually did get up. You know, like you're still
yeah.
in bed, and then you catch yourself
Could you
afterwards. You're like,
imagine
no,
if he did it?
I'm still in bed. I'm still in bed. I know somebody who actually thought they did get up and that they did go to the bathroom, but it turns out they never went. They peed the bed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe
Oh,
that's what happened to that guy. Maybe there was no
you never know.
alcohol.
I mean,
But
I think no, there was alcohol involved.
yeah,
Absolutely, there was alcohol involved. They were at the club having a good time. So,
yeah.
yeah. But she had so many stories. She always had some weird. She ran into the weirdest situations. Oh,
Do you know what though?
and she's settled down now. So
That pee the bed thing though, that is memories. So every time she goes to change the bed sheets and she sees that big stain, she'll be like, oh, I remember that guy. One of the things, going back to that original TikTok video we were talking about at the beginning, if you actually pick it apart, she had some good red flags that probably meant that this guy wasn't going to be worth her time anyways. And one of them, aside, he was late. And wasn't apologetic about it either. He was saying like, oh, well, you know, everybody's late once in a while. Thinking, you know, just basic manners, you could kind of be like, okay,
I
well,
think
you
the
know,
thing that got me is when she was saying that he didn't make a reservation and it was like a packed, I guess, what was it, like a Friday night or something. And I think that would have been like, okay, so you're disorganized, like on
mhm,
a crazy busy, you're not going to make a reservation to the restaurant.
yeah.
That to me would be a red flag. I think,
And I think the other
you
thing
know,
about that too is it shows he specifically told her, don't worry, I've got this planned, right? So he seemed to
yeah,
be like this guy who's just like grandiose, like, oh, don't worry, I got you, I got it planned. And then you show up and yeah, there's no plan. The plan was, I'm going to meet you there. And he didn't have any
yeah,
foresight to say, you know, like, okay, maybe. And apparently the other thing that the guy did too was he talked incessantly about himself and what he had. You know, he talked about like all his assets and his cars and his homes and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
And I think in general, guys seem to think that that stuff impresses women, and maybe it does impress some of them, you know. But I mean, if that's all you're about, if you can't find some kind of other common ground throughout the course of the first date aside from just, oh, this is what I got, this is what I'm about, you know, like, are you trying to lure a fish? Like, what's going on there?
Oh, I remember I went for a coffee with this guy once, and he kept putting his Louis Vuitton wallet on the table, and he kept playing and fidgeting with it and playing. It's like, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, I get it. You want me to notice that you have a Louis Vuitton wallet, and the more you like flash it at me, the more I'm not going to even acknowledge its existence. You know?
Do you know that that
Well, they
sounds
say
like,
wealth whispers, right?
what was that? Well, oh, wealth whispers, yeah, for sure. You know, like the people who actually have a little bit of something to their names, they don't spend a lot of time flashing it or bragging about it or whatever. But I think when it comes to the dating thing, it's a whole other thing because, as I said, you're trying to lure that fish. The problem is that most of these fishers don't know what the fish actually eat or what actually catches the fish. You know, I
Well, I find
mean,
that there's a mismatch. Because think about it, there's some women who guys complain about that all they keep asking about is like, what do you do for a living? How much do you make? And all these money related questions. And then there's those guys who are overcompensating, trying to show off, oh, well, this is what I drive. This is how much money I have. This is what investments I have. It's like those are the two types of people that should find each other somehow. The one who are digging for that kind of information and the one who keep offering it unsolicited. But it seems like the people on the other side can't seem to find each other.
you know why? Because when they actually do meet up, they're bored with each other because there's no conversation, there's no flow.
You think that's what it is?
100%. Because first of all, if somebody is wanting to talk about what they have all the time, that probably means that they haven't asked the other person a question, right? The person's too busy talking about what they have, like, oh, me and my friends, we went on my boat and blah, 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 blah. And, we went to a car show and
No,
my
but
car
that's what I'm saying. It's just you have two people who don't talk about it or keep flaunting their wealth. And why would you say they don't have anything to talk about? I would disagree. I think they would. I remember I went on a series of dates with this one gentleman, and he had quite a number of companies, and we never talked about how much money he had, but I know he was very well off. But we had interesting conversations about business, and he talked about things like how stressful it is to have like families always depending on him, especially during Christmas, and when business slows down, and like he talked more about the business side of things, which was quite intriguing because he was very worldly, and I think those kind of conversations can be super interesting, and they don't have to be about money. It can be about what that person is doing and their passions and the challenges they're facing in life, right? But speaking of red flags, I think one of that would be a red flag is if somebody is talking so much about themselves that they fail to ask any questions. Instead of saying, "Hey, okay, enough about me. Tell me about you."
100%, because while you're busy bragging about your car and your boat and whatever, and talking about, oh, well, my car is getting kind of old. It's only 2 years old, but it's too old for me. They've never said to the girl, so how was your date? What do you like to do? Do you like fishing also? Are you, like somehow or another, they could have taken their brag and turned it around into like a potential question to find common ground.
Right.
And I mean, one of the other things that happens to be a red flag a bit is somebody who drinks too much on a date.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, sometimes it's nerves. People, first dates, you're nervous, right? You're trying to put your best foot forward, unless your objective is to get laid. That's a whole other thing. But I mean, which you know what, and that leads you to like hookup culture. Like, I mean, what the heck is up with that? I mean, this is the other section of people that are mismatched, because half of the time the people that are meeting up, one person is actually interested in pursuing or finding somebody to pursue a relationship with, and the other person is just there for hooking up. And like, why don't they just find who wants that? And I find there's a lot of lying going on about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. A lot of people aren't even forthright. I wish they would just be like, hey, you know what? I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm just looking for, I'm looking to have fun. And there's plenty of people who are looking for that, but be honest about it. Yeah, exactly. I think one of the red flags, another red flag that comes to mind for me.
I'm gonna say, don't.
No, don't, but they do.
Time. They do. I don't get that. Okay, so you have the ability to put profiles. You have the ability to put profiles on multiple places. There are lots of people that just want to hook up. So why are you trying to lure in people by saying, I'm looking for something serious. I'm not looking to play games. If they say they don't want to play games, they are playing games. They just are trying to disarm.
Actually, that was going to be my point. That was totally going to be my point. Is the red flag for me is when people put, I don't want no drama in their profile. That is 100% red flag that you are all about the drama.
Yes, and probably not self-aware enough to know, because if every relationship you have been in has drama, maybe the drama is you. Just saying.
Yeah, I know somebody like that. My father is on marriage number 4. He's so I actually said to him one day, it's like, do you ever think that maybe you're the problem, because you seem to be the common denominator here?
For sure.
Like after 4, I don't know, I'm like, doesn't the marriage become meaningless at that point? So
like, why?
Anyway.
I mean, Lord. And then, you know what? There's so many people they've got. as you get older, it's harder to meet people. It's harder. Actually, I think even younger people are having this problem too, because I kind of did check Reddit a little bit, and there's a lot of people who were like, "Oh, I was in college, or I was in, I was 19, and this happened and that happened." So people, it doesn't seem to matter what age they are all going on the dating websites. There was this one girl actually I was talking to the other day, and she was talking about how she had gone to Ireland, and she had gone, I think, with a couple friends, and um, they decided they were going to turn in early. She wasn't ready to go to sleep. She wanted to do some exploring. So she just hopped on Tinder, looked for somebody to hang out, and went hanging out in Ireland with this dude that she just met on Tinder. I was like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah, uh, I mean, anybody who was sort of coming of age during Sex in the City, that series that ran, it was all about the hookups. Is those ladies in their 30s and 40s, running around New York City, single and ready to mingle, right?
Oh Lord. Bye-bye.
His tongue actually licked my teeth.
It's really small.
Size isn't everything.
3 inches.
Well,
Hard.
do you know how the clitoris works?
Yes.
Do you know where it is?
Yes.
Well, it's about 2 inches from where you think it is.
Oh my God.
I can't go on any more bad dates. I've been dating since I was 15. I'm exhausted. Where is he?
Yeah. Be honest.
How many hookups were there in that show? Especially
Yeah,
the
but
character Samantha, right?
I think what ends up happening is when it comes to a TV show, it shows like scenarios that have happened to people, and it just seems excessive because they got to keep the story moving, right? But I'm sure if it was real life, maybe they wouldn't have hooked up so many. Their body counts wouldn't be so high,
There's a lot of things going on, and a lot of people are doing the hookups. I don't know how they do it. I personally, it's not my thing.
It's not my thing either, but I can see why. Like if you've got somebody who, they get down pretty good and you walk away feeling like, oh yeah, I needed that. But you don't want the headache of like, having to deal with the day to day. Because quite honestly, when you have a relationship or you're starting a relationship, it seems to go pretty well. You get to a certain point, and then you introduce the intimate side of it, and then it turns to shit. And it could just be that, once you start to mix that into like an actual relationship, it complicates things. And if you're not looking for that complication and you're both on the same, like, okay, so we have dinner occasionally, we hook up, there's no commitments, takes the pressure off of everybody.
Well, I do have one girlfriend, and she's always been open about the fact that she's like so fun. And one thing she said one day, she's like, I like to have a series of meaningless relationships. And that's exactly what she had. She just went from short-term relationships. So before things got complicated or before things got serious, she'd be on to the next thing. So I guess in a way you get that euphoric, like, butterflies every time you meet someone when something is new, and you don't have that fizzling out phase. What really is the definition of, relationships take work, to nurture and to keep them alive, because inevitably things become dull, right? Or they become mundane, or you just, life happens.
Yeah, and the thing with a relationship, regardless, there's always going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be times where it's just like, we're on a hot streak, and then there's times where it's just like, oh God, I'm tired and I don't want to deal with you. Or then there's times where like, I hate the fact that you exist, like that happened.
I hate the way you breathe. Yeah.
Like you're snoring. If you keep snoring like that, I'm gonna put a pillow over your head.
So I recall that you got some pretty interesting relationship advice at your wedding shower years ago.
You know what? Yes. So one of the things that the organizers decided to do that would be fun would be a book with advice from various people about how to make your relationship work and how to make it last. And as you were opening their present, their advice would be read. And one girl who's been married, she's still married for ages now, to the same guy. She was with him in college. Her thing was, let's have a safe word when we're arguing, so that if it gets too intense, we will know that it's time to pause and take a break, such as, let's agree to disagree. And this other girl screamed out, or how about you're an idiot? And then that's when you know to take a pause. And that was awesome.
I think a
advice.
lot of couples could benefit from a safe word for sure, and not just in the bedroom. But literally kill each other.
As soon as you're arguing and you hear that magical phrase, "You're an idiot," you're like, "Okay, wait, no, it's time to step back, and it's time to like win our separate."
Or before the frying pan comes out, right?
Say, "Oh, she's reaching for that frying pan. Let's pull it back a little bit." But yeah, no, you know what? I have to say, I am pretty happy that I am not in the dating world. I am very scared for everybody. I'm very sorry for everybody. Oh, actually, before we go, I think there's one other date story that I read where this woman said she was with this guy and he was like kind of weird, right? She was a little bit on the older side, 40 years old. Oh my God. And, you know, they're chatting and then he eventually was asking her about kids, right? And she's like, "Oh, you don't want kids anymore, right?" She's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you're 40. And she's like, "Well, I mean, depending on what happens, I might want to have a kid still." And he's like, "No, you don't, because then you're gonna, at your age, you're gonna have a kid, or you're gonna get pregnant, the kid's gonna have Down syndrome, and you're gonna have to have an abortion." She's like, "Whoa." So
wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that escalated pretty quickly, and I'm pretty sure she didn't see him.
How about we talk about what's not wrong with what he said? Because I think that'd be easier.
Well, I mean,
let's not assume you're gonna have an abortion. Let's assume that it's gonna have Down syndrome. Let's assume that she actually wants to have kids. Let's assume she doesn't want to have kids. Let's assume everything. I'll tell you what you want and what you don't want.
Now we get back again to the fact that there's a lot of mansplaining going on. I don't get it. I don't get the need to mansplain everything, but you know, I mean, there's so much we could talk about. There's the whole mansplaining thing. There's the whole safety issue that women face anytime they go out on a date. You know, there's the expectation that, "Oh, I paid for your dinner, so now you owe me a little," you know, and that's not all the case, buddy.
And that's why I will never accept a drink from any man at a club. Not that I go clubbing or, you know, but I don't accept drinks. I don't accept anything because I've had experiences where you do, and then after it's like the guy feels like he now bought you for the night, or like he's got rights to like hang off you for the rest of the evening. It's like, no, thank you. I didn't sign up for that kind of commitment. You know what I mean? Just because you bought me a drink.
It takes more than $6 to build a lifetime.
Yeah, but you can't shake him loose after.
I know. It's like you found a friend for the night. It's like, no, buddy, but thank you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they stick to you like Vakur after, and it's like, okay, no, not worth it. Not worth it. Nope. I'm good, thank you.
Well, you know what? Honestly, this is a subject that we could go on and on forever. That everybody's got like horrible experiences. You and I have horrible experiences. And you know what would be so awesome? If you guys watching us would leave some of your horrible first date comments below, and we could probably do like a whole segment reading your horror stories on a future video.
Oh yeah, actually, I would love to do that. I love to read them. Here's one I actually found on Reddit. So this girl writes in. She's like, "A guy asked me out once. It was going well. He seemed respectful. The food was good. Then he randomly asked me for anal sex, and I was like, no, sir. Yeah, it didn't work out for obvious reasons."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, let's
have an entree with a side of anal.
There you go. I'll give him credit that he's rather direct. He wasn't beating around the bush.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole subreddit community dedicated to bad dates out there. So I'm sure most people have their share of horror stories.
And we would love to hear them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so until next time, thank you for
I'm
stopping
Roxy.
by. Don't forget to like. I'm Eva. We'll see you soon.
You want to see my R2D2 impression? Don't be scared. Too late.